The issue that the D.C. is now contending with is we've got 3 weeks to solve the border wall funding and maybe immigration. Neither side potentially will get anything done on immigration. Trump says he could declare a national emergency if he has to. Let's bring in Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. Great to see you, Senator.
Hey, Liz, thank you for having me.
Senator, would you support a national emergency to get border wall funding?
I think it's a better way. There's a better way to do that. One that's less likely to be tied up in court. People are coming up with imaginative solutions. A bill I've discussed, and I will introduce this week, would allow the executive branch to use that money confiscated from drug lords. We get about $5 billion a year to use that money to build the wall. Others have other solutions. I'd rather find one of those solutions. I think it's more likely to be effective.
Yeah, there is a clause in the code that says, you know, the Defense Department, the Pentagon is in the war on drugs, and conceivably, you're right, that money potentially could be used for the border wall. What do you think?
Well, you could, but again, if you're talking about a state of emergency, that will inevitably be tied up in the Ninth Circuit. You can already imagine the brief being prepared, the judge being selected. So I think there's better ways to go about that. And again, in my proposal, it would be the drug lords that would be paying for the security, not the federal taxpayer, not the Mexican government. And I think that's actually who should pay for it.
That's really an interesting idea. I mean, they're not going to, if they can't fix immigration in 2 decades, they're not going to fix it in 3 weeks. So the question is, what kind of DACA deal may be brought on the table? You know, Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats have said the wall is immoral. Critics are saying it's the way President Trump talks about the people trying to come into the country. Listen to what the president said when he met with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in December.
People with tremendous medical difficulty and medical problems are pouring in, and in many cases, it's contagious. They're pouring into our country. We have to have border security. We have to have a wall as part of border security.
Critics are saying that doesn't sound humanitarian at all, and that's why they're calling the wall immoral. Even though the wall itself is not immoral, they just don't like that language, sir.
I can agree that the rhetoric would be problematic. I did my medical residency, though, in Los Angeles, and there would be people who would come to Los Angeles with a letter from their doctor elsewhere saying, please treat this condition. In some cases, the patient could have afforded to do it in their home country. They just would rather come to Southern California and get it done for free. So it might be immoral, but ultimately it's going to be that middle-class taxpayer who's paying more in taxes or getting less in services, and I would also consider that pretty tough on that middle-class taxpayer.
Now, Senator, let's get to what former White House press secretary under Bill Clinton, his name is Joe Lockhart. He's continuing to deny. He's saying there is no problem at the border. Watch.
Illegal immigration is at historical lows. There is no crisis at the border. So you've got to start from the place that everything the president's saying is fiction. So it's very hard to negotiate with someone who's dealing with a made-up problem.
Senator, your reaction?
Joe's clearly being partisan. About 2,000 people are coming per day to come across the border. In the first part of this year, it's already exceeded the numbers in 5 of the previous 7 years. In previous times, it was oftentimes Mexicans, and Mexicans could be turned right across the border. But now it's Central Americans. We do not have such an agreement, and they have to be processed and stay in. So there's lots of reasons why what Joe's saying is not true. The fact is that we do have caravan after caravan forming. We must do something to stop that.
You know, it's like it depends on what the meaning of the word crisis is with people who talk like that. That's what the critics are saying about what Joe Lockhart is saying. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how U.S. voters are feeling after the longest government shutdown, partial shutdown in U.S. history. 6 in 10 Americans believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. Nearly 7 out of 10 have negative opinions on the state of the nation. That's according to the latest Wall Street Journal NBC poll. Your reaction to that?
The American people want problems solved. They do not want problems created. They want lower health costs. They want lower drug prices. They want the border fixed. I could go down a list. And when they see that not happening, they are understandably frustrated. My hope is that Speaker Pelosi sees that as well. Hopefully we can come together and get some good things done on behalf of the American people.
I want to button this with national emergencies that have been declared nearly 5 dozen times since the mid-'70s when that law was enacted. It covered things like dealing with diamonds imported from Sierra Leone, the 2009 swine flu epidemic. I hear you about this being dragged through the courts, including the appellate court of the Ninth Circuit. Is there a way to get your idea enacted that it does not get pushed into the courts? You're talking about taking drug lord money to build the wall.
And that would not be a national emergency, would require legislation, enabling legislation. On the other hand, if we combine that with another idea that someone floated that I think is good, having a third-party arbiter, if you will, decide, do walls work? Is there a better way to go? I think walls work. The evidence shows that they work. I kind of know where that study will turn out, but at least it gives cover for those who want to say they don't. Okay, we've now had a third party, and the third party says so. But we need to be imaginative as we find a solution. We must secure our southern border, though.
Okay, Senator Bill Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Liz.